Hey guys, this is Joshua Hayes with Soldier of God Apparel. So, I'm going to tell you the story about the time I had my spinal cord severed. It was back in 2004, early 2004. I was driving a little S10 Chevy pickup truck down a neighborhood towards my house in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Well, I was crossing an intersection in which I did not have a stop sign, and I was listening to the song Paint Me a Birmingham, which, by the way, stuck in my head for probably about 6 years. Uh, I was looking down to turn it up when a 1980 something boat of a car hit me, struck me from the side. It flipped my truck and pushed it approximately 20 yards, and I actually my left hand drug down the road, in which leather does save lives, because the only part on my left arm that ended up even with a scratch is I have a scar on my wrist from where the leather wasn't covering. Well, as soon as the vehicle stopped sliding, I unbuckled and I dropped to the ground, and then I stood up, which in my window, and I realized I was trapped inside. Wasn't a big fan of that, so I punched the passenger side window, and I climbed out. Well, I took a couple of steps and then just collapsed. And the next thing I remember is waking up inside an ambulance. I remember a police officer that happened to come to the scene climbed inside, and he asked me where the screwdriver was. I, of course, had no idea what he was talking about. And I asked him what he was talking about, and he said, well, you realize that a car hit your glass, the side of the truck, and it did not break the glass. The glass is not designed to break except with a very strong, sharp object. Well, I apparently was that strong, sharp object. Anyway, I digress. So, I go to the doctor a few times because I can no longer feel my legs. I can still walk though, but I couldn't feel hardly anything in my legs. So, but I go to several different doctors. They did an MRI test and said nothing was wrong. Gave me some Tylenol and basically patted me on the butt and told me to leave. I still was, I wasn't getting anywhere. I knew something was wrong, so I finally found a doctor who looked over the MRI again, and he said, a couple of your discs aren't even showing. They're blacked out. I'm like, okay. So he said, the only thing we can do is we're gonna have fusion surgery. We're just gonna fuse your spine together, and you'll no longer have discs there. Well, that sounded lovely, but I went ahead and had the surgery. That was in August of that same year. It was supposed to be a 2, maybe 3 hour surgery, and it ended up taking 11 hours. When I came to, doctor actually asked me how I was able to walk. He said because apparently what they thought was just a couple of discs that were broken ended up being my spinal cord was severed and embedded into my vertebrae, and they had so much calcium deposits, or what do you call that? Bone spurs that they ended up cutting them off and was able to put that into my spine without having to go into my hip and pull any bone out of it. But then he said that something peculiar. He said that my spinal cord wasn't connected at all. That there was nothing telling my legs to move. And so he asked me how I was able to walk. And the only answer I've ever been able to come up with is there's a voice in everybody's head. That's theirs and God's. And if neither one of them says you can't, you can. But then after that, he told me that the chances of me walking normal is slim to none, but I can kiss any idea of having a physical, laborious job out the window, because it was impossible. He said with this kind of surgery, it's just, and the damage done. He said I'm going to be healing this for the rest of my life, just because of the nerve damage alone. I didn't really think about it a lot when he said that, to be honest. But I knew I wasn't going to do that, to be in front of a computer. I mean, heck, I didn't start learning about computers until a couple of years ago, and I'm 40 now. But I started stretching first. Then I actually got into Taekwondo. I got okayed to do that as long as I didn't do any kind of sparring. As far as they know, I didn't. Then I started working out. At first without weights, but then weights. And in 2 years later, I was working as a detention officer at a county jail. And then 6 months after that, I was a police officer, and I'd been a police officer for 11 years. Till a few years ago, decided I needed to make some money. I guess the reason why I'm telling you this story is I don't want anybody thinking that just because a doctor or even science or anything tells you that you have limitations, that doesn't mean you have limitations. You do whatever you put your mind to. Don't let anything stop you from what you know you're supposed to be doing. Just do it. God bless.